Hello again everyone, I have nothing to open this up with because it was just a fun chapter. One I enjoyed and one I am excited to talk about post-haste. So let's get started. Chapter 1140 is titled Scopper Gaban, and the cover story is a somewhat morbid showing of Ulti being chained up and semi-tortured by who's who. I do like that, through all these swords being thrown at her, she's still just angry and wanting to protect her little brother. How sweet. The chapter begins with Gaban holding the key to Loki's chains, riling Luffy up as he refuses to hand the key over without a fight. Remember, at this point, Luffy, Zoro, and Nami don't know Gaban is a former Roger pirate. But we do. As Luffy jumps down to challenge Gaban, Zoro remembers Colin saying his dad is a former pirate who can hold his own against Elbaf warriors. And well, this is made pretty clear when Gaban not only totally avoids every single attempt Luffy makes to grab the key, but then coats the key in a sparkling haki, which is obviously Conqueror's haki, if the crackling lightning around the key itself is anything to go by. We would expect nothing less from one of Roger's arms, and it catches Luffy off guard when he's beaten into the ground. Nami seems taken aback by Luffy being hit. Luffy becomes enraged and Gaban basically tells Luffy to put on the straw hat. Luffy yells the hat is a treasure he's holding for Shanks, and Gaban says, "You're only holding it. He didn't give it to you." The cheapskate. Gaban, oh my god. Shanks just can't win this arc. Why does he keep being called a bum? In all seriousness, this is definitely just Gaban joking around. He clearly loves Shanks, and I'm assuming he wants to see Luffy wearing the hat for sentimental reasons. Luffy fully embodies Roger's will, after all, so I can't blame Gaban for wanting to see Luffy wearing the thing that reminds Gaban of Roger. Luffy yells at Gaban that Shanks isn't a cheapskate, and that Gaban has no idea about Shanks, which Gaban obviously laughs off because this man is one of Shanks's pirate dads. If I had a nickel for every time Luffy yelled a person has no idea about Shanks at someone who's actually known Shanks all their life, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird it's happened twice. We also get an awesome panel of Gaban turning Luffy key-shaped, by the way. Gaban suddenly pulls out 2 axes, and Zoro noticeably panics while Luffy seems to shiver at whatever move Gaban is about to pull out here. Zoro yells for Luffy to look out, just to jump forward and block Gaban's attack, which breaks off a whole tower of the castle. And remember, this is a giant castle. Gaban is the size of a pea compared to this place. This old man not only looks sexy slinging some axes, but he seems absolutely insane. Also interesting that we see the tower Gaban cut off falling to Elbaf's underworld. I'm unsure what that means, or if that will mean anything in the future, but I guess we'll find out. Gaban thinks Luffy has a good crew, literally smiling at a seemingly nervous Zoro, and Zoro and Luffy jump forward together to take out Gaban, as Luffy's now unleashed his Gear 5 form. However, as Zoro and Luffy move, Gaban put his hands up and declares he yields, causing Luffy and Zoro to slam into the wall together. As Luffy and Zoro yell in anger, Gaban says it's just a joke. So splitting off a giant-sized tower is just a joke to this man. Dear God, he really is insane. And Gaban tells Luffy the key is now in his possession. Gaban doesn't let Rodo tell Luffy that he's a former Roger pirate, for some reason. And Gaban says, if Elbaf is still intact by the time you're leaving this island, come and see me again. Not ominous at all. Very awesome, Gaban. But Gaban pissed Zoro and Luffy off so badly that they both yell they never want to see him again. Entering the story as a mysterious old man just to leave after pissing Zoro and Luffy off is crazy work. This is world-class trolling if I've ever seen it. We're shown a flashback of Shanks talking to Gaban, clearly talking about Luffy, as Gaban says he won't just automatically trust Luffy just because Shanks does. So clearly, Gaban wanted to test Luffy's abilities and crew out, and he did that by joking with him, you know. Cutting down a giant-sized tower as a joke. Sorry, I simply cannot get over that. We suddenly cut to Elbaf's school as the kids yell there's a weird bird in the sky. For us to find, it's Gunko and Shamrock landing on an empty area of land to summon a portal. Two new Holy Knights then appear, one in underwear and one seeming to be a kitten. Insane design from Oda here. The Holy Knights are introduced to us as Saint Somers and Saint Killingham, and they're shocked to discover they're in Elbaf. Shamrock is then told he'll be going back to the Holy Lands due to the dire situation at hand, and Saint Somers makes a comment about Shamrock visiting Harold's grave. Interesting. We're then told the Holy Knight's plan is to kidnap some Elbaf children, while Saint Killingham tells us the Elbaf kids cannot go through the Abyss pentagrams due to the children not having a mark. And Shamrock says, you can make it into a game. And so ends chapter 1140. Let's start on the Holy Knights, because they continue to be incredibly ominous. We have now discovered the Holy Knights themselves can create these traveling pentagrams, which we now know are called Abyss pentagrams. But one needs a mark to travel through them. So far, we know the Celestial Elders can travel through them thanks to Egghead, along with the Holy Knights. And I'm sure this mark will end up being important once it's revealed to us. Whatever the mark is, it'll surely be an indicator of who is and isn't a Holy Knight, which must surely be valuable information. This is a good setup from Oda though, as it means the Holy Knights cannot just shove people into portals and take them wherever they want, eliminating any possible plot holes that could have emerged from spontaneous portal travel. Oda's always thinking about everything he writes, and I always appreciate it. Honestly, the question is, does Shanks have this mark? Now that we know Shanks has been back to the Holy Lands, it's very possible. And it's a mark that could divide some characters on Shanks if they knew he had it. That's just speculation though. I'm talking to the room about it at this point. When it comes to Shamrock, it seems he is returning back to the Holy Lands, meaning he probably won't be around for Elbaf anymore. This is as I thought, because Elbaf really did just seem like an introduction for Shamrock. Shamrock is currently Oda Chekhov's gun, and I could sniff that from a mile away. This man seems a bit too interesting and a bit too ominous to only be the big bad for just Elbaf. And using Elbaf as an introduction only for Shamrock was very well played. This man is now in the story, and if he leaves, he will now be at the back of our minds for every future arc to come. The game that Shamrock brings up seems to be in reference to the God Valley incident, where the previous Holy Knights of the day made hunting and killing slaves into a game. So this cannot be good. The Holy Knights are clearly going to be very formidable, and now we've been given the idea that this will just be a game to them, meaning anything they do, anything they accomplish in Elbaf is going to be part of a game. I cannot think of anything crueler, and I cannot think of anything more terrifying. It's a total lack of empathy for the lives they are about to ruin and the people they are about to fight and kill. Now, let's get to Gaban. Guys, Gaban is so hot, especially swinging around those axes. That was so sexy of him. I absolutely love this old man. Gaban is clearly a powerful character, if making Luffy and Zoro jump at him together is anything to go by. And this continues to confirm to me that Gaban is going to be a very important mentor. I'm not exactly sure what he's going to teach or who he's going to teach it to, but Gaban seems to have knowledge, both in history and in power, that he can pass down to the Straw Hats. Gaban making this key crackle with Haki and using a ridiculous slashing move to tear off a whole giant tower is in the same notion as Rayleigh using his Haki to release Kami's chains all the way back in Sabodi. We saw bits of what Gaban can do. He can clearly do more, and it's even hinted he will be someone who can help the Straw Hats with his farewell to Luffy. Speaking of, what Gaban said was a little bit foreboding, and it's making me believe Elbaf is not going to end in one piece. Haha. I've said in previous reviews that a Roger Pirate popping up as a mentor hasn't exactly led to good things before, because a mentor appearing means Luffy and co need to be mentored through something, and this probably means Elbaf is going to be incredibly rough for the Straw Hats. I think Elbaf won't be destroyed per se, but I do think it's going to end in ruin. I don't think it'll be like Sabaody, where all the Straw Hats split off into different areas of the world. I just think it's going to be the Straw Hats biting off more than they can chew, showing us there are still dangers in this world they can't face as they are now. Honestly, it's a great setup if this is what Oda's planning, because we've just seen Luffy take on both Kaido and a Celestial Elder back to back. Kaido is someone Luffy managed to take out, but the Celestial Elders as a group were so powerful. Emmet needed to use an essential Haki nuclear bomb to allow the Straw Hats an escape. Kaido is an emperor Luffy has defeated, and we're now being introduced to some more powerful foes Luffy has no idea about, nor that he can really take on without a lot of struggle. It's especially scary that Saturn, by the end of Egghead, was taken out as the weakest link by Imu, not by Luffy, just to be replaced by Garling, a man who makes the other Celestial Elders sweat. So with the Celestial Elders and with the Holy Knights, Oda is giving us new opponents and new powers of the world the Straw Hats will need to face. And so far, they're being built up as terrifying. It all feels like the Straw Hats are about to hit a wall in Elbaf, and Gaban will be the perfect person to help them through it. Speaking of hitting walls, as I have been saying with nearly every single chapter review as of late, I am paying really close attention to Zoro. This whole scene with Gaban, from Zoro remembering being told Gaban is a powerful former pirate, to Zoro yelling at Luffy to watch out and jumping in mid-fight to help Luffy as he's sweating at taking on Gaban's axes, sure is interesting. Because when it comes to Zoro jumping in mid-fight for Luffy, he doesn't tend to do this much. The rooftop in Onigashima was a different situation, since that was a planned group fight Zoro was a part of. But Gaban, this was Luffy's fight. Luffy was the one who moved to take on Gaban, and Luffy is the one who fought for the key. I don't tend to see Zoro appear mid-fight for Luffy against a single opponent Luffy is taking on unless that opponent is incredibly dangerous. The only time I can remember Zoro doing this was back in Water 7 against Lucci and Kaku, as both Luffy and Zoro got flung out of the building. Usually Zoro trusts in Luffy's strength, he trusts in Luffy's abilities, and he lets Luffy get the job done without him. But against Gaban, as Gaban uses a move that cuts a whole tower off, causing Zoro to panic and jump forward to defend Luffy. Yeah, this is unusual. Not to mention Zoro is not enjoying this fight at all. We know how he looks when he enjoys a fight because he tends to smirk or mouth off to the opponent. We even saw him excited to face strong enemies all the way back in the Legoland chapters. Yet here, against Gaban, Zoro seems particularly anxious. I haven't seen Zoro enjoy a fight since S-Hawk, and even then, his fight with S-Hawk was rough. So Gaban forcing Zoro to enter the fight just to say it was a joke is no doubt rubbing salt in Zoro's wounds here. The more I see Zoro, the more on edge he seems to be, and the more he worries me. I really do think Elbaf might have Zoro hitting a wall, and I am genuinely scared for what will happen when or if Zoro has to take on one of the 3 Holy Knights in Elbaf. He's definitely acting different to me. He is definitely a lot more anxious, and his worry against Gaban has only proved that to me. But who knows? I don't know what Oda's going to do. For now, I continue to keep an eye on Zoro, and I continue to see how Zoro will grow. With that being said, What do you guys think? Did you have fun? Is Gaban one of the coolest characters you have ever seen? Because he is for me. Release your thoughts in the comments, but remember to just be nice to each other. We are civil in this book club. Please take note I only read the officials, so these chapter videos will only coincide with the officials. I'd really appreciate it if everyone in the comments could respect this notion as well. If you'd like to see my chapter reactions in real time, you can join me on Twitch or in my YouTube VOD channel. Please be aware they're a bit rambly because I get too excited about One Piece to collect myself in my live streams. With that being said, thank you and bye.